are you staying underneath God's laws and principles? Then you have a lot of freedom. And at the same time, I'm so jealous of people who have a vision and they
Uh-huh.
work the vision and they will pause and wait on God to open doors for that vision. Like, I'm intrigued by it. And I also
Hmm.
don't know if I agree that everybody has that opportunity for something that special, because I also think God creates different personality types. Like, you're a very entrepreneurial spirit and minded, and some
True.
people aren't. Some people have a personality type that this is foreign to them. They would never go do something like this, and I don't think God's asking them to. We
Hmm.
sell the joy as Christians, like, oh, if we're a Christian, we should be joyful all the time. And it's like, no, there's a time for the sorrow, there's a time for the brokenness, and it's okay. And it's would be so much nicer if we go to our churches and just come with our sackcloth and ashes and be
Hmm.
real versus, oh, I'm a Christian. I should be happy today and everything should be going well and blessings, blessings, blessings. It's just not realistic. And I love the toxic positivity. That's a great phrase because that's what a lot of churches do. Or they'll do it in the service. Maybe when you get to small groups or whatever, you get a little bit more real, but it's still
Hmm.
this fakeness in the big, large groups versus just
Hmm.
real acknowledgement that we live in a broken world and things are broken and we're
Yeah.
something in our life is part of that. Okay, I feel like we're striding so well in the conversation, but I need to backtrack and let you tell your story
Oh
because you were
no,
talking
the
before we
story. Well,
forget.
we'll get the story back.
Okay, sorry. That was a long rabbit trail, but it was really good, and I just wanted to make sure you get your story
I
in.
don't even know what I was telling you the story.
You don't even remember what it was about. Well, we were talking about your journey.
I know what story it is, but I
Oh, you
don't know
do.
why I was telling you the story.
Well,
Oh
tell
yes,
us,
I
and
definitely
we'll
do.
find
I
the.
definitely do. I definitely do, guys. So the situation was, I was, working on myself and going to therapy. And so I had this amazing Christian therapist, and he was, not your normal, like, let's sit here and talk about like every finite detail of everything that happened. No, we would both pray before we came in, and then we would wait on the Lord, and it was a very prophetic kind of a therapy. And he would sometimes say, like, okay, I see you here, and this and that is happening, and why is that happening? And then God would meet us there and heal places. We didn't need to talk about every detail, because I was scared to go into therapy because I thought they're gonna like wreck me with every detail, and I can't deal with that. But the Lord was really kind, and he's always a gentleman that way, in healing. And so I went in this day though, and right beforehand, I was talking about God giving you like a hope and a future and showing you pieces sometimes. And I had gone in right before I had seen this picture of me on a white stage, like the whole room was white. And there I was preaching to like thousands of women. Well, I go into therapy and we talk about a few different things. And then he's praying. He says, so why do I see you on a stage talking to all these women? And it's a white stage. And he's like, there are like thousands. I got up, I kid you not, Todd. I got up and I grabbed my purse and I was in tears and I said, what does God want from me? And I was like shaking, like furious, and I left because, I felt this small. And a person that's this crushed and their whole life is devastated and everything is a disappointment, when God starts to give you hope and vision, sometimes you're pretty angry because you're like, no, I don't trust that.
Yeah.
My marriage was supposed to be, fine, and I don't, I just don't trust that anything's going to be good. Maybe nothing is good. Think about that for a second. I mean, let that sink in. Have the faith of God. So when we sit in prayer with him and we say, Lord, thy kingdom come and thy will be done, we're letting him impress upon us the desires he already placed inside of us. And then once we come to that space of those are the desires that he placed inside of us, then we can say, okay, yes, I agree with that. And he said, and when we agree with it, then we speak it out too
Hmm.
you know. Lord, I agree with that. Yes, in Jesus' name, I will be on a stage with thousands of women. And it brings us into the same faith as God. So we join and we partner with him at that point. And then when we say something about our daily bread, it's like, what is our daily bread, Lord? Well, that has to do with what is the wisdom? What is the next step? that you want me to take? So, what is the daily bread for those desires that you want to accomplish on this earth that I agree with you on? And so, coming into agreement with Him rather than just like asking, we're now able to declare that into the earth and take that as our revelation. And so, I thought it was just beautiful because it's like that's why your prayers, didn't go up until you said, "Thy kingdom come." I want what you want, God. I want to, yes, to those things.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it just was, just absolutely beautiful to watch that whole kind of story come together over the last few days.
No, 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 that's beautiful. It's really funny. I wouldn't say I struggle. I guess I would say I ponder a life. I believe there are 100% moments where God intervenes. I'm going to use Moses as an example, right? There was tons of slaves God did not call and tell them at a burning bush to go do something. Like it
Mhm,
wasn't like everybody had the opportunity. God literally called Moses to let my people go. He
mhm,
empowered him, he enabled him. And so, but Moses isn't all, we all can't look at that and say, well, God, what's your burning bush moment? God's like, I didn't give you one. I think there are times where God allows us the free will. Sort of like in the garden, it's like we have free will to do
mhm.
what we want. Sort of what you
And
talked
so
about
did
earlier.
Moses. You know,
Yeah,
he could have said, "No way, man."
yeah, well, yeah, I think God was going to make sure he didn't. But for my discussion's sake, it is sometimes people say, I'm thinking about moving to New York, but I'm
Mhm,
really praying over it. And then,
mhm,
but I could move to Utah and I'm praying over it. Lord, show me which way I should go. And I think
mhm,
sometimes God's like, neither are sin. Not every
mhm.
decision's left versus right. So,
Sure.
or let me say that differently. Not every decision is right versus wrong. Sometimes it's left versus right,
Okay.
meaning it doesn't mean God's saying New York is right and Detroit is wrong. Is
Mhm,
if it fits under my rules and regulations. In other words, are you doing anything illegal? Are you violating my law? Are you violating my will? If not, you have freedom. If you move to New York, I'll bless it
mhm,
or not, or whatever. And so, where's that? I think sometimes in the conservative Christian world, there are people who really struggle about, God said this to me, God said this, and
mhm.
I'm gonna affirm this and quote it and make it happen with my words and my thoughts. And other people are like, well, what if that moment is not a God moment? It's just like a free will moment. And so
Sure.
I ponder, like, I love stories like yours. I
Mhm,
love them. I'm fascinated by them. And at the same time, I'm also a little cautious of telling
mhm.
everybody to go find your moment, name it and claim it. I'm not saying that's the
No, I don't
word.
believe in
I'm
name it
not,
and claim it.
I know, I reverse that, but that idea of affirming something, and God's like, well, yeah, if you want to go make a ministry of this, go. See, that's sort of where I am with and helping people heal. I don't always know if there's God moments in what you choose to do. I would say God has blessed us with free will, and
Mhm,
if we are in His will can be very wide. Like, are you loving your neighbor?
mhm.
Are you staying underneath God's laws and principles? Then you have a lot of freedom. And at the same time, I'm so jealous of people who have a vision and they
Uh-huh.
work the vision and they pause and wait on God to open doors for that vision. Like I'm intrigued by it. And I also
Mhm.
don't know if I agree that everybody has that opportunity for something that special because I also think God creates different personality types. Like you're a very entrepreneurial spirit and minded, and some
True.
people aren't. Some people have a personality type that this is foreign to them. They would never go do something like this, and I don't think God's asking them to. If you like this content, then subscribe for even more resources, fun, laughter, and sound advice for Christians adventuring in unyoked living. Not just divorce recovery, but for brave men and women who are growing and going and living a life on mission. Blessings.